video, you will learn what a personal business letter is and the different parts of a personal business letter. To follow along with the video, you should open up the personal business letter notes that look like this. If you do not have those open, pause the video and open those now before you continue. So a personal business letter, exactly what is it? It is a letter that you personally write. You personally write this when you want to correspond with maybe a representative from a business or even an organization. Most commonly, a personal business letter is sent through the mail. Obviously, you enclose it in an envelope and send it to whoever it is that you want to relay the message to. One style of a personal business letter is called the block style business letter. Now, the block style business letter means there are no indentations whatsoever within the actual letter itself. So everything stays flush to that left-hand side and you do not indent anything, paragraphs or salutation lines or closing lines. And as we go through, I will show you that. Now, as you follow along with me, make sure that you pause the video when you need to update your notes. Remember, your notes look like this, and you will be filling in these different parts on here. If you need to add additional notes yourself, you can always type additional things on here as you wish. Now, the very first thing I want to check is my margins. So if I go to File and I go to Page Setup, I can see that all my margins are set at 1 inch. For a personal business letter that you are writing, obviously, you can leave 1 inch for the margins all the way around. There's no need to change the top margin to 2 inches. You're probably wondering, why would I change it to 2 inches? The only time you would want to change it to 2 inches is if you were writing a letter at your job, meaning you were writing the letter as a part of your job. It wasn't a personal letter, it was something that you needed to do for your job, and you're sending this letter from your business. So at the top in that 2 inch margin, there would be letterhead. So I will leave all the margins at 1 inch for the personal business letter. Now, the very first thing I want to think about is the line spacing and paragraph spacing right now. So I'm just going to click on single spacing, and I'm going to double check in custom spacing that I have 0 before and after spacing right now. I'll change that later. I could do it now, but I'm just going to wait. So the first thing in a personal business letter is the return address, and that is the address of the person who is sending the letter. So if you're the person sending and writing the letter, then this is going to be obviously your address. If it's a personal business letter, then yes, it'll be your home address. So I'll add home address here. This is called the return address. So in your notes, you should stop the video and go over and place in the little box return address for the address at the top. That is the address of the person who is personally writing the letter. Strike enter when you're finished, and the current date will come next. I will put a date here. You can use the current date. On your notes, just write the word date. So again, you have return address as the very first part, and then date as the second part. So in your notes at the top here, you should have put 1 inch margin for the top, and then 1 inch margin for the left, right, and bottom margins. And then here you should have return address, and then this one is date. Now moving on, you will strike the enter key 1, 2, 3, 4 times, quadruple space, 4 times hitting the enter key from the date line down. Next comes it's called inside address. This is the address in which you're sending the letter to the person you're sending it to. This address can be 3 lines or longer, meaning you definitely have to have 3 lines in the address: person's name, building address, city, state, and zip code. But there might be some other things that you could add, or have to add, I should say, to the business letter so that it gets specifically or gets directly to the specific person in place. So let's say that we're sending a letter to someone at the middle school. And that person that you are sending it to is Mr. Como. So 4 lines down, where you struck the enter key, 1, 2, 3, 4, you will type the name of the recipient who is going to receive your letter. Mr. Como. Where does he work? Pleasant Hills Middle School. So I just added an extra line. So again, I could have put Mr. Como and went right into the street address, but I put that he works at Pleasant Hills Middle School at 404 Old Clareton Road. And that is Pleasant Hills, PA 15236. Again, this is called the inside address. So on your notes, where you see Mr. John Hudgens, that is the inside address. Strike the enter key 1, 2 times. So now, if you notice, I have a double space in here. This is a quadruple space. It just sets apart the return address and date from all of the information that needs to go to Mr. Como. So now comes the salutation line. So on your notes, you can write salutation here next to Dr. Hudgens. So again, we're writing to Mr. Como, so I will put Dear Mr. Como and put a colon. Now here's where I can begin to type my body of the letter. So that's your next word, body. The message is called the body, and that will go here in your personal business letter notes. Added some random text on the screen to act as paragraphs. So if you notice, my first paragraph ends right here at the where I'm clicked at, and you see my cursor blinking. And my second paragraph is here. Now I can just strike enter and put a double space in between, or remember, I can go up here, click custom spacing, and make it 12 points of space after. So either way, it doesn't matter, but for right now, I'm just going to hit the enter key and make sure that I have all my custom spacing, everything turned off to 0. And I'll just enter in or strike enter and put in my double space manually. It doesn't matter which way you do it. Okay, you could do it either way, but I chose to hit the enter key. But you do have the option to go in and add that extra paragraph spacing using the paragraph spacing option. Now, there should be a double space after the salutation. There should be a double space, which is 1 blank line after each paragraph, and a double space after the last paragraph before you put in the closing. So make sure you go back over to your notes and write closing. Now, you're probably wondering, how many times do we hit enter here? Well, you're going to strike the enter key 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like you did at the top. But why such a large area down here? I'll tell you that in a moment. Sincerely, and now we have to put in, it's called the writer's identification. So skip over this middle one here, and where it says your name, you're going to type in this box, writer's identification. That is the label for this next part. Writer's identification is just your name. It IDs the writer. So I will put my name. Now I told you I'll come back to why there's such a large area here. There's such a large area here because this is where, when you print out this letter, this is where you're going to sign your name with a pen, blue or black ink, starting between the S and the L in Sincerely and Lisa, or whatever your name is. And you're going to start from this left-hand side and sign your name right in this area here. After your name, you're going to hit the enter key twice. Now, this is optional, and it's optional because you might not have anything to include with a letter when you're sending it in the mail to this person. If you would have something to send with this letter, and if you remember back to memorandums, you learned this in memorandum when we did the memorandums. If there's something that you want to attach and staple to your personal business letter, you would write the word attachment. But if you have just another form or another piece of paper in the envelope along with the actual letter and it's not stapled, you're going to want to use the word enclosure. They basically mean the same thing, it's just how they're included in that envelope. Are they stapled together or are they just enclosed and folded in the envelope together? Now you might be thinking, oh, what about initials? This is a personal business letter. So you are personally writing it. No one else is typing it for you. No one else is writing it for you. You're writing it and typing it. So there's no need for reference initials at the bottom. Your notes, make sure that in the area where you sign your name, this is called the signature area. Make sure that you type in signature area to label this part. Once again, this is writer's identification down here where it says your name. And this last part, you need to indicate, and it's up to you how you want to write it, but it actually is considered the attachment or enclosure notation. That's just letting you know that it's a notation, whether or not there is an attachment or there is an enclosure with your personal business letter. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that a block style business letter, everything stays flush to that left-hand side. If you see this, you know that this is written in block style business letter format. To make it even more boxy and block style, I can select my paragraphs and justify them. What it's going to do, if you remember from back at the beginning of the school year, I had mentioned to you the different types of alignments. Well, everything is flush here on the left, but I want everything flush here on the right as well. So turning on justify will push a little bit extra space in between certain words so that it's aligned on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So it looks a little bit neater. The only sentence that might be different and actually not out to the margin is your last sentence that finishes a paragraph. You might not have the sentence run all the way to the very end of the line. So this is what is called a block style personal business letter.